In the journey of startups and even investors, we've all seen the share of hardship. Things don't always work out the way we want them to, but failure isn't necessarily a hard stop. It's where things really set in motion. Welcome to Failing Forward. I'm Fira, your host for this session, and today we have our very special guest, Han from Jirnexu. This podcast, Failing Forward, aims to see the beauty in blunders. Han, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're excited to dive into your journey as a founder and learn about the challenges you faced along the way. Before we get started, could you briefly tell us about yourself and also Jirnexu?
Hi, Fira. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me here today. Happy to share as much as I can about successes and failures while at Jirnexu. A little bit, I guess, on myself. Malaysian born and bred. I spent some time in the UK studying and working. After uni, I worked through the financial crisis in 2007 to 2009. I came back in 2010, and then wanted something to do for myself, and that's why I started what eventually became Jirnexu. I've had successes and failures along the way, and Jirnexu is Malaysia's I guess one of Malaysia's leading fintech startups, fintech financial technology you mentioned, and we've had great successes and some failures over the last 11-12 years, pleased to chat more about it. Most Malaysians sitting here would know Jirnexu for its home brand here, ringgitplus.com, Malaysia's leading financial aggregator and comparison and application place, so e-commerce for financial services. Come in, research, compare, apply for products, credit cards, loans, insurance, deposits, etc. I've been quite successful, I guess, over the last 11 years, but not without its ups and downs.
Okay. And being an entrepreneur in an Asian household, that's something not normal for everyone. How did you kind of pull your way through, building Ringgit Plus and now Jirnexu, and how did your parents kind of feel about that?
Oh, good question. Haven't had that question in a while. I guess I'm a little bit different from what you just called a traditional Asian household. Yes, my parents asked me to go to university, get a good job, all that kind of stuff. But, I come from a family of, they used to call them businessmen, but I guess we call them entrepreneurs now. So, my father was an SME entrepreneur, and so was my grandfather with his very small business. I think it was a sole proprietorship when he first started it. So very small business. So the kind of entrepreneurship mentality was always kind of in the family. Although, my parents wanted me to, like I said, go to university, study hard, graduate, get a good job.
Yeah.
Which I did. I did all that. But, I guess it was in my blood. After a while, you just get an itch that, you want to really do something for yourself, do something impactful, not just for yourself, but also for society or the nation, whatever you call it.
Yeah. So just bringing it back. So I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I've never had the guts, or I'm not willing to take that risk to actually jump on, because it's always always a safer route to kind of go into a job, go into corporate and try a company, get a basic salary. But what do you think that's missing, or what do you think you can advise other aspiring entrepreneurs out there to take that leap of faith and start something today?
Yeah, I think it's almost self-selecting. I think I can only speak from my experience, which is so I did work for 3.5 years. So I had some money saved up, and I was like, I guess I was saving for a reason. I didn't know what the reason was at the time, but it ended up being, hey, look, you're saving up money to start your own business, and but more importantly than just having enough money saved up to kind of cushion you through that kind of fear of taking the next step, is this word I want to call conviction, which is do you feel strongly about something that you need to fix, or do you feel strongly about something that you want to do, right? And if you feel strongly, whether it's setting up your own e-commerce business, selling cosmetics or clothes, or in my case it was I came back to Malaysia in 2010 after working. I didn't actually know that I want to start a business. It was more a case of, hey, come back to Malaysia, figure out if I want to do something on my own. I knew I had an inkling I wanted to do something myself without knowing exactly what it was. But figure out, what you're passionate about solving. There's a problem out there, whether it's the market or whether it's something that's near you. Figure out first what you want to solve, and then see how much conviction you have in solving it. And then for me, that's the genesis of kind of getting into entrepreneurship. Like whether it's a problem you see in your day to day, like hey, look, like in the case of when I came back in 2010, it was hey, look, like I'm finding myself going to bank branches literally twice a week to do something, whether it's to get a new checkbook. Oh, that's a funny thing to say these days, right? Or apply for a product or check out a service or inquire about my account. When in the UK, where I studied and worked, I rarely stepped into a bank branch, right? And I kept finding myself doing that activity here, and like something's not right. Like someone needs to fix this. Maybe that someone's me. And eventually, you just feel a lot of conviction. Hey, look, this is a problem, right? Like, do we like going to bank branches? I don't think so. Nobody actually likes it. Exactly. But I can tell you in 2010, that was like almost a weekly occurrence for a lot of us. And how do we solve that, right? And just at that point, the internet was starting to do amazing things in business. Not just have a website, it looks pretty, but you can start doing e-commerce on business on online. So I thought, hey, look, why not we put financial information online, and why not we make kind of the stuff you want to do day to day, whether it's applying for something, engaging with your bank or insurance company, right? Let's try not to do that in person anymore. Let's see if we can do that online. And I felt enough conviction to say, hey, look, okay, I'm not going to go into a job here in Malaysia. I'm going to use the savings that I had, start something to solve this very problem.
Yep. And I think that's the key, finding the problem and then coming up with an idea for that. I think that's the key for a successful business model. So coming to your business itself. So starting a company or starting a business is hard, but scaling it is even harder. Maybe walk us through some of the challenges that you faced throughout starting your business first, and then later we go to scaling.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, it's almost 12 years ago now, so I need to really think hard. So we started a business called Save Money, which was a financial education portal. So we put information on, put analysis, so then people can research on financial products and also their financial lifestyle and live better financially, live better financial lives, right? Be more disciplined, or have more financial literacy. And my co-founder Yentak started this business called Ringgit Plus. We merged a few months in, so it was pretty much starting two businesses together. But the point was, can we take all the information that's available out there right now in pamphlets, in leaflets, and on bank websites in obscure areas, and make it easy for people to not just research on those products, but also compare between products and apply for them online. So what we found, challenge, a big challenge early on was, what we found is a lot of people really wanted to know stuff, right? And learn about stuff, right? Like because they were encountering the same kind of problems that we were at the time. It's 2010, right? 2010, 2011. And but a big challenge we found was a lot of the banks and insurance companies at the time, not today, but at the time, hadn't quite figured out how to actually process these customers online. They were very comfortable with Malaysians walking into branches, dealing with on the counter and stuff, but not that many banks were fully digital, right? And that presented a challenge, right? Because we've got loads of people reading articles, comparing products online, on Ringgit Plus, on Save Money, and very few actually being able to act on a now informed decision, because no banks, insurance companies at the time were prepared to accept them, because they did not have let alone APIs and all the kind of stuff that we all know now, digital forms and all the good stuff. They didn't even have websites, some of them, right? So how are you going to accept the customer digitally if you don't even have a digital presence? So that was a big challenge at the time. Therefore, we couldn't monetize the business beyond advertising, right? Like lots of people reading, lots of people comparing, lots of people wanting to transact, but no one actually able to transact, which presents a problem, right? Because then you're like a catalog with nowhere else to go, right? Can you imagine a business where you're a catalog but you can't buy anything, right? How's that business?
At the same time, I think before that, let's take a step back and see, because a lot of educational universities and all, they don't teach you this financial literacy. And how do you make people actually interested?
Yeah, I think you ask people, right? Nobody's actually interested in financial stuff, right? Like no one has a genuine deep down interest. Oh, I love learning about interest rates, and I love learning about late fees. I think you ask anyone, honestly, nobody has that kind of passion. Maybe except nerds like me. But what people do have is a need to interact with these things day to day, right? And that's why we've been fighting for financial literacy to be in classrooms like from day one, not because we think that people should be interested in this kind of stuff, but these are crucial life skills that people need to have, because it doesn't matter if you're interested in finance or finance grad or accounting grad or whatever, or marketing grad or engineering grad. You need to encounter a bank at some point in your life. You get a credit card, you need to get a home loan, you need to get a car loan, you need to have a bank account to take money and accept deposits and stuff like that.
And to be able to even file your taxes.
Yeah, exactly. This stuff like that is stuff that, regardless of whether you're interested in it or not, you need to know. And so what we found is the reason why there was so much interest in our service is because we brought, the whole financial jargon world down to a very manageable level, right? That the average person could understand. There's a saying we had at Ringgit Plus back then. It was, let's try and make the average 13 or 14-year-old able to understand what we write. And the reason why I say we chose that as kind of the age where we felt, okay, as long as you're 13 or 14, you should probably be able to understand what we're talking about. It's because everybody has the point where they start specializing in their education, right? And that's about kind of 13, 14, 15, where you start going into like art stream, science stream, specific subjects. But everybody, has a basic education, there's a similar education up to about 13, 14, maybe 15. So that's where we set, the level of language that we felt, we wanted people to have while they were reading our stuff. And I guess that's what gave people interest. It wasn't actually like deep interest in what we wanted to say. It was a real need that they had, that, hey, I'm being served financial jargons by banks, insurance companies. I don't really understand, but I need to, because I need to buy my house. I need to buy my car. But I don't really understand this. So they go online and start Googling and start researching, like, okay, what is interest rate? Okay, this bank XYZ's home loan, what does this mean? And they would generally find us because we were putting things out there in ways that an average 13, 14, 15-year-old could understand, right? And I guess the interest part from Malaysians was not the problem, right? It was really about, once we've educated them, we say, hey, look, like, this is what you need to do. There was no easy way for them to actually act on now their newfound knowledge.
And so going back to the one you mentioned earlier, monetizing that business at the start, because you only could monetize it through advertising. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, the huge failure there, right? Because like you've got lots and lots of people who will not trust you with their financial lives. Essentially, you've educated them. You told them, hey, look, like, let me help you with this bank XYZ home loan, right? Or a credit card, right? And they go, hey, look, thanks for helping me compare and contrast and apply and now I know this is the right product for me. You're gonna help me get it, right? And frequently at the time, this is 2012, 2013, the answer was no. Sorry, we can't help you. Just walk straight to a bank branch. And you go, okay, thanks for the advice, but I was also hoping that you could actually help me out with thing. I'm not very confident walking into a bank branch, talking to a banker. Quite intimidating for some people, right? So the banker sits you down and go through all the terms and kind of, I don't want to say the word patronizing, but it kind of almost, they expect you to speak their language. When you don't, right? It's not fair to expect the average person to speak bank lingo. And they were hoping for somebody, someone like ourselves who help educate them a little online to also, help them through the process of actually getting the product that we told them, hey, look, like, this might be right for you if you were this kind of person. Okay, Ringgit Plus, could you also help me with this? And so we were getting loads and loads of customers with nowhere to funnel them. And obviously people were upset with us, right? But they were still very upset with their financial life, right? Which is like, okay, I still have to do all this. Why can't I do it online? I can. At the time, you could buy stuff online at the time. Loads of people were going online to buy clothes. I think 2012, 2013, that was the time of Zalora, Lazada, Groupon. People were very used to buying stuff online. So they were trying to figure out still, okay, like, why can't I get, this stuff online either? So that was a huge failure, right? Because then we would get lots of people just dropping off. And huge failure for us too, because like we were just not making money at the time. What was the question? How to solve it, is it? How did we solve it? So it can be very tempting to just give up, right? And just go, oh, right, I guess the industry is not ready for us. We're too early, right? That's a very...
When you started your business itself, were you ready to already burn cash?
Well, I mean, every startup needs to burn cash.
Yeah.
Right? Like very few startups are revenue generating from day one. Yeah. But we kept ourselves lean. We weren't really spending too much because it's not that expensive to start a business at a time online, right? Get a website, put some content on, do some research, make it easy for people to compare, apply. It's really lots of content people, lots of developers essentially, and not much else. So stay lean until you figure it out. Advertising was okay. It paid bills, paid for our rental, electricities, a few stuff. It's fine, but like it was not really the kind of business that you see today when you think of fintech startup, right? Tremendous growth, product market fit, they call it in startup world, where, people want the product, they can get the product, you get paid for it. It was only kind of a year or two down the road where we figured that out, which is the point where we stopped burning too much money, essentially, right? I think the thought process at the time was you could go either way, right? One, you go, we're too early, let's just stop here or close it down or whatever it may be, and say, hey, look, let's just wait for banks to get ready. Let's just wait for insurers to get ready to accept customers online, digitally, from a third party. Or we could go deeper and solve the problem and actually start speaking to these bankers and ask them, hey, look, do you know where your customers are? They're not actually just going to the branch anymore, right? They're here, and let me prove to you that they're here, right? Let's show you our stats. Like we're getting tens of thousands of people coming on every day, like interested. I mean, I used the word interested very liberally here, but interested in your products, your services. They're comparing. They're somewhat educated by us, but also they're educating themselves, right? These are where your customers are. Don't you want to be where your customers are? And it's about going through the hard yards, convincing folks in those very, I don't want to use the word slow, that's very unfair. Traditional thinking, they're comfortable with their worldview around where customers are. Just doing the hard yards over weeks and months, and in some cases years, about educating not just consumers, but now industry professionals, guys who are in the industry and supposedly know everything about the industry, and telling them, hey, look, in this digital world, and this was 2012, right, before everything became digital, that that's where your customers are. You need to start investing with us, or in yourselves, but also with us, to engage customers here and start onboarding and accepting customers here. And I think that was a big kind of pivot point for us, which is, do we just stay as a kind of almost a media portal, education, let's make money through ads, or do we actually figure out how to solve problems the same way e-commerce folks are doing it, which is, hey, look, it's not just putting stuff up on the catalog, but it's also helping people transact, right? So we were essentially building the payment gateway, the equivalent of transacting for a banking product, by investing time and effort to educate and empower banks to accept customers online, right? So for me, first failure point, what do? Do you try to solve that failure point, or do you pivot and run away from it? That was a big call for us, and we decided ultimately to solve the pain point, because we believe that people actually want this, right? Like, people want to transact online. They don't want to read stuff and then walk to a branch, right? Or walk to their insurance agent.
I think that's very normal for a lot of companies who start with an idea or problem solving, and then along the way they find that there are actually bigger problems, and then they pivot and change their business model accordingly. Yeah. So that's when you started your business itself. So when you scaled your business, what was your biggest challenge?
That was quite an exciting time. We started to get into kind of 2014, 2015, and we hit on the point of getting a couple of banks, a handful by then, to start acknowledging that, hey, customers are online. We need to solve it. We need to engage them, and we'll do it at Ringgit Plus, because that's where customers seem to want to go. They want to get educated first. Then once they get educated, they want to transact. So let's try to work with Ringgit Plus to solve that customer pain point, which is I can't transact online. So we will build integration points with banks, sometimes manually, means like it will be an online to offline process. Sometimes it was online to online, so that's fine. Challenges with scaling was us going from kind of 20 people, content technologists, to then, building up full BPO, business process outsourcing type of operations, which is like, okay, we need a call center now to help customers with their processing documents. We would upload it for them. We would set it into a nice little package that a bank can accept. And this is not typical of the digital business, right? You expect a digital business to be like content writers, product people, online product people, developers, doing a cool business and then scaling to millions and millions of customers, millions and millions of revenue. But what we found was having to think like I don't say real business, because online businesses are real businesses, right? But think like also, hey, look, like the business is in not online or offline. That's not the point. The point of the business is to help a customer to get a financial product, right? And if we need to set up a call center to do it, so be it. So huge challenges. We didn't know the first thing or two about setting up a call center, right? So what's the infrastructure required? So we did everything ourselves. We built our own call center software. We didn't know there were any out there. We hired a bunch of people who we thought could do call center stuff, but it's a very specific skill set to be a call center person.
You have to be very patient.
Yeah, exactly. It's you need a different kind of constitution to be, a call center person. So we learned those hard yards along the way. But I think it's only by really doing it yourself and encountering those failures.
You actually learn from it.
Exactly, right? You have to encounter those failures head on, right? And then think ways in which you will solve this, being who you are, right? Our business was, hey, look, we believe that people want to do things online. Yes, there might be some offline processes, but do they really need to be there long term? And you can only really solve that problem if you're not directly in the business. We were not in the business as a call center. So, within a year or two, we started becoming probably Malaysia's most efficient financial call center because we were the only ones investing in call center software for a digital customer, right? A lot of call centers were really about solving problems that the sales was done at the branch level, and then they just needed to solve some issues. But we were really trying to integrate a digital to call center process, and then and that kind of thing. We learned the hard way, right? And that's how we built essentially a very efficient process to kind of onboard a digital customer.
So talent is a huge challenge for a lot of people. What is the biggest challenge that you've had facing, I don't know, maybe you had to fire someone or you had to get someone else on board instead of someone who's doing better?
I mean, I'll preface by saying, like, I always like to think of myself as a people person. But the thing about entrepreneurship is that you have to understand that while you can be a very hard taskmaster, right? Just go like, why can't you behave like this? Like, like this is how it should be. Just work harder, work smarter, whatever it may be. Ultimately, like people are people, right? They have feelings. They have stuff outside of work. They have challenges, right, in their own daily lives, right? And like their entire existence, unlike yours as the entrepreneur, is not based on the success or failure of this company. Obviously, they would like it if the company they work for becomes successful, and then they can say I was part of that success. That's great. But ultimately, like you've got to find a way to ensure that as far as you can, right? When an employee comes into work, talent comes in, they're giving as much as they can during the time that they're here. With enough reverence, with enough of a second thought on what's going on at home or with their families or with their personal lives. And anyway, like I think as a digital business, you need to figure out how you can get the most out of people anyway, because like being a digital business helps you scale a person, right? So a person does something, right? In a digital business, it can impact 1 million people, right? That's very rare to have, and you get that benefit anyway. So there's no extra benefit from working this person doubly hard, right? So that's the first thing to say, the preface. But obviously in any business, right, we grew from kind of 20 people in 2013 to over 250 people by 2018. So that's kind of huge growth in 5 years. There will be, folks that maybe don't meet your standard, right? Even with all those things in mind, which is, hey, look, like they've got things. They may not be as committed as you are in the business because you are the owner, right? This regardless of how much ownership you give to the employee. And yeah, I believe in ownership. I believe in making employees feel like they're owners, if not of the whole business, at least of the department they're in or the project that they're running. Look, it's your project, like kind of and it helps the business as a whole. But you're in charge of that project. You own it, right? You're the owner, and we try and do that. But there will always be people that, they will admit themselves that they also fall short of the mark. And for me, it's just about being as human as you can. As an entrepreneur, it can be very, very enticing to treat employees like just cogs in a machine. But, the key is to be as human as you can and say, hey, look, like, have I given you as much as you can to do the job as best as you can? And if the answer is no, then maybe I've fallen short, right? But if I have, and we both agree that, hey, Han, you've really helped me a lot, but I just can't do this. And for me, that's the best way to let go of someone, essentially, for there to be an understanding, hey, like both you or the business and me, we've given it our all to actually make this work as an employee here, and it's just maybe not a good fit, right? Maybe I just don't accept that this can be done by anyone, not just me, right? And I think obviously we didn't get it right a lot, with 250 people, there were bound to be stuff that we got wrong, but for me, I sleep well at night knowing that I've done as much as I can to not make the employee work, but make that employment work, right? And I think, I've had situations where employee comes back and says, hey, look, I don't agree with you, Han. I think you guys could have done better. and I did not leave on good terms, and I want some compensation. And then it's about having that honest conversation with them and say, look, I understand that you might be in a tight spot now. Let's figure out what can work for you. And fortunately, we didn't let any specific situation go too far. And most people, while they can't say they're necessarily happy about the situation, at least there's some closure there.
Okay, so you mentioned sleeping well at night. So most entrepreneurs, we like to ask them this question is, what keeps them up at night? Especially during the early days or during COVID even, or during the different market uncertainties. So what was one thing that you remember that kept you up at night?
Yeah, looking back for the last kind of 10, 11 years, I can think of two main points. As a founder, naturally, you look after lots of different parts of the business. But there was a time in 2014 to 2017, 18, where I was looking after also the finances, so the de facto CFO, etc. And as a startup, there are many, for everyone listening out there who are startups who are facing this, I empathize because we almost ran out of money 3 separate times during that occasion, right? When I say that, I mean weeks away, right? And that can get very stressful, right? And I'm pretty sure there's no successful startup who hasn't gone through that here. So if you're going through that today, like don't feel too bad. It's just a case of taking a step back and thinking, hey, look, you're gonna run money in 4 to 6 weeks. How do I make sure that I've got a plan in place? It might not work, but if it does work, it'll be fine. If it doesn't work, then we'll have to think of something really drastic. There are some things which is out of your control, right? And yes, I know it's really difficult, but try to get some sleep. That helps you think. There's 3 separate occasions where as a business, we're running out of runway, right? Running out of money. It's a very common thing. So people see Jirnexu tremendously funded, amazing funding, smooth sailing almost, right? But that's certainly not the case in the early days. So in short, running out of money, biggest thing that you want to try to avoid doing. But if you get into it, take 5 deep breaths every morning and try and get through the day.
Well, where do you think an entrepreneur should start once he's faced in that situation? So where should that person start?
I think it's a case of figuring out what stuff that you can control and what you can't. Right. So that's the first thing to do, which is what is in your control and what is not. So what are stuff in your control? Payroll is in your control. You can control the amount of stuff that you have. Spending is in your control. Marketing spend, technology spend, electricity, whatever it is in your control. What's not in your control? Market development. So if a bank goes bust in the US, in March this year, is that in your control? That's totally out of your control, right? If a global pandemic sweeps the world, is that in your control? That's totally not in your control, right? I think that these are kind of things that first you need to separate what's in your control. Don't stress out about pandemic. Stress out about what you can do to respond, rather than worrying about which country is it going next, when our borders going to open. You can't control those things. Stress out about, okay, do I have enough money if it lasts 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? How do I make sure I have that? If I don't, what actions can I take today to solve that? So that's the first thing. Second is have a plan A and a plan B. Right? Don't have too many plans. It gets too confusing. Plan A is, okay, I need to do some fundraising. I need to cut some stuff, whatever it may be. Have a plan A, if things go as planned, right? Things will be fine if we do this, right? But also have a plan B, right? And mentally prepare yourself for executing plan B. A lot of people say, hey, look, we'll worry about it later. But as an entrepreneur, you've got to have a very, what looks like a very drastic plan B, but already start to, think mentally about it, right? Such that if it does happen, plan A doesn't work, you can very, very swiftly and mercilessly, or with as little stress and emotion as possible, execute it, because you've already thought about it beforehand. Plan B can be a very deep salary cut, or deep cuts in your employment force. It can be deep cuts in marketing, whatever it be. And the key here is survival, right? You cannot be a successful startup if you're dead, if you don't have a startup, right? It's better to have a much smaller but much healthier startup or a growing business than not having one at all. So if you just have that in mind, I think hopefully that gets you through the night.
So moving on, I think Han, just a few days ago, we saw something on the news that's exciting and maybe something moving forward for you. Maybe you can share us a little about that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know when this is going out, but after 11 years of a day-to-day grind, Jirnexu is on a great footing these days, right? We've been operationally profitable for the best part of 6 months to a year now. We've grown tremendously since COVID times because shift to digital and all that. Lots of people now really understanding the power of going digitally for their financial services. We've got a great team now, so I felt it's the right time for me to, take a step back, let the team run, under my very, very talented and very, very forward-looking co-founder, Yentak. Right, he's doing a great job. He's been group CEO for the longest time, so I have no doubt that the team will run just as well. In fact, probably even better. And they have been running pretty well the last 6 months without me. But I just thought, it's a good time to take a step back in life, focus on some personal stuff, spend more time with family, and see what else interests me. I feel like we've achieved so much at Jirnexu. But me personally, I feel like there's so many more things that I can do alongside, if not separately from Jirnexu. And I think there comes a time in every startup that a founder needs to evaluate his own position, right, and not take his own position for granted, right? Say, hey, look, I'm going to be CEO forever. Is that the best thing for your business, though, right? I sort of see myself as a kind of 0 to 200 kind of guy. But am I the kind of guy yet to be the 200 to 2,000 person type of CEO? I think I very much like the starting from 2, growing it, and I think that was part of the consideration.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's very rare to get founders in Malaysia, especially, to realize that maybe I should take a step back.
Yep.
And it's because they created their business and they think it's their baby, and it's hard for them to kind of take a step back and let other people control. But sometimes maybe if they've never thought about, maybe if I put another founder there or hire a new CEO, that would actually 10x my business. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think you've got to separate yourself out as the owner, entrepreneur, as well as the leader, manager. Right? There's kind of two, almost, it's like you're a two-headed dragon, right? Is that a thing? I don't know if that's a thing. Yeah, like where, yes, on one hand, you without you, there is no business, right? Because this business would not have existed. True. But just like you replaced yourself as content writer, I was a content writer at the start. Just as you replaced yourself as marketing manager, I was doing marketing myself way back when. Just as you replaced yourself as finance manager, CFO, which we did. We have great CFO today. The final step is saying, hey, look, like for the stage of the business today, do I want to be CEO? And am I the best CEO for the business? And I think if those two questions are yes, then yeah, go ahead, keep going on.
At what point of the business should they start asking themselves?
I will ask it at every single point, right? And for me, at the early stage, I couldn't see anyone taking the business to where I wanted it to go without me, right? But at this stage of Jirnexu, I can see plenty of people, and I've seen it firsthand right now, the last 6 months. Plenty of people who can lead the business to where it wants to be. And then the question is, while that person, that group of people still includes me, right? I think no problem. Do I still want to do it? I think that's also the second question to ask. And I think you've got to be honest with yourself on both those things. Am I the right person for the job? And do I still want the job? And I think that's no different from any job, right? I think you're not special just because you're an entrepreneur. Look, like ultimately, I'm still on the board. I still have majority of my net worth in that company, in Jirnexu. So I very much care about its success, and I just don't work there day to day anymore.
Knowing yourself as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're gonna go great things after this. We're all looking forward.
Thank you. I hope I can continue to at least, if not be super successful again, but at least make a very strong impact to Malaysians in terms of their financial lives, right? I think that's something that I'm always passionate about, right? Which is impacting Malaysians' financial lives in as positive a way as possible.
Is it in the same industry? Maybe a teaser?
A teaser? No, I think it's a case of, look, fintech is a very broad area, right? Like at Ringgit Plus, Jirnexu, we focused on consumer financial services, making sure it's easy for you to research or apply for a financial product online. There are so many other areas of somebody's financial life where you can help. And I think, I'm very focused on making sure that I can play a part continuously in doing that for Malaysia.
So last question then. If you were to turn back time, what could you have done differently, or what would you have done differently?
That's kind of saying, do I have any regrets, right? Yeah. I think the thing is, like, yeah. So I shared a couple of those hardships and and challenges that we faced. Me personally, also the company, and I think I've learned so much from those that I don't think I want to not have them, right? Because then I will not be I would not be where I am today. I would not have the knowledge that I have today. I would not have the wisdom I have today around how to scale a startup, how to hire people, how to make sure we get the best out of people, and even when people leave, make sure they feel satisfied about leaving. How to build a business from scratch, how to grow to 50 million ringgit revenue a year, that kind of stuff. I don't think without seeing those challenges or making those mistakes, we would be where we are today. So I think personally, I have zero regrets, right? Now maybe one thing I would say is, could I have executed faster? Could I have been a better leader? Sure. But I think, you can't look back and have regrets when you are a startup founder, right? Because that is an opportunity to learn, right? And if you have regret, that kind of means that you didn't want to make the mistake in the first place. But every single mistake is an opportunity. You cannot have regrets, right? The only regret I think you should carry and should have is something that you didn't dare to do, because you don't know, right? So I think I really can't think of a big regret that I have.
Okay. Any last words for founders out there who's just starting up their business, especially now in such an uncertain world?
So my true north and continues to be today is, what I said earlier. How can I make Malaysians' financial lives better? Right, and everything I did, be it a small step sideways or this way or that way, it always, had that. I always had that in mind, right? And if that's something that you feel that like you're doing, right, hardships along the way will come. But solving that issue, if you do not feel a high degree of conviction at solving that, then you probably shouldn't be doing it anymore. So my best advice is, things might get tough, or you might start and things get tough, but do whatever it is within the law and your power to keep rowing in that direction, which is solving that problem that you have such high conviction to solve. And I think that's my best advice. You might get a stage where you start running out of money, you might have some staff problems, you might have some operational issues, things are getting out of hand, growing too fast could be a good problem. Things getting out of control. But as long as you're rowing in that direction, the thing you feel most strongly about, I think you will not have regrets.
Either you had a blunder or something like a VC or investor has said to you that really struck a nerve. And how do you handle when something hits you very personally?
Oh yeah, okay. So I can think back to one situation. I won't name the VC, but she. Oops, I already named. But we share with her our business model, right? Say, we want to put things online. We want to have people do this. We want to have people do that. And she outright said, no, your business model won't work, right? Because there is no banks who want to work with you. They want to keep their own customers. Blah blah blah. I'm like, okay. But listeners, we have customers today. It's like, no. They will kick you out. The banks will kick you out. You have no business. Yeah, you're doomed to fail. Why not just join a newspaper, online newspaper, and write their financial column or whatever, right? Literally. Then I was like, oh, okay. Huge setback in kind of personal confidence. This was maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago now. Huge setback. So I went back home and just existential crisis, right? Like, what am I actually doing? And do I actually believe in this? But for me, it's all about looking at what you have today and what it could be, not what's been done before, right? And figure out whether there's a path to what it could be. I think it happens to everyone. Someone tells you your business doesn't work. But you got to think objectively, right? Okay, what do I have? If I had 0 customers who cared about reading stuff and understanding financial products, then I'll probably go actually, I don't think anyone cares about what I'm doing. But my customers were telling me that they, through their numbers, right, were telling me, hey, I'm interested in this, and I'm clicking on, how come I cannot get this product? I'm complaining to you, Han. And that tells me that if I solve that, that's going to be valuable in some shape or form.
Thank you, Han. Thank you so much for today. Han, for also sharing your personal story. I think we went pretty deep into the discussion itself. It's been an incredibly insightful conversation, and I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot from the session today. I personally have gained a lot as well. Control the controllables, make sure I have plan A and plan B, and be mentally prepared as well. And in whatever failure that you face, always look at it positively, because if without those failures itself, you wouldn't have become the person you are today. So Han, in terms of where can these entrepreneurs who's watching this today, where can they find you, or if you don't mind sharing how they can get in contact with you?
Okay, sure. I mean, if you're interested to find out more about Jirnexu and Ringgit Plus, just go to ringgitplus.com, check out what we built. But me personally, if you want to reach me, I'm on all the usual socials. I'm on Twitter @OiHan. I'm on LinkedIn. Just find me, Han Liu. I'm on Threads as well. Threads is a new thing.
That's a new thing.
Yeah, I'm on Threads at Weekend as well. So just come and find me, ping me. I respond back. So I'm active on DMs. Happy to chat about anything really, about entrepreneurship, financial services if you're interested. I know, again, not that many people are, but I'm happy to chat. Ask me anything really.
Okay. I'm sure life as a founder, like you mentioned earlier, is lonely, right? So it's important to kind of have that like-minded people kind of speaking around.
Yeah, you mentioned that, in Malaysia, we have a great close-knit founder community. Happy to have any of you guys aspiring out there to join it, right? And, we try and support each other where we can.
Thank you so much, Hunt, for being here today, and for being part of our first ever series of Failing Forward, where it's not about avoiding failure, but rather failing forward. And to our listeners out there, make sure you subscribe to my startup's YouTube channel for upcoming episodes and more on Malaysia's startup ecosystem. Thank you and see you in the next episode.